Hi, my name's Phil. I like discussing politics, and after the very late decision on the Brexit extension, which I talked about at the time, what I want to do is go through some of the fallout of that today, and in particular at the end, I want to explain about the possibility of a second referendum. There's a lot of people saying, "Oh, there's totally time for us to put one on." There absolutely isn't. I'd like to be wrong, but there isn't. I'm going to explain in detail why that is the case at the end of the video. So, first of all, in terms of the aftermath, what was happening while I was basically asleep and I caught up today. There are some members of the EU who are not terribly happy with France. Remember the situation is most EU countries wanted a much longer extension. France wanted a shorter one. They eventually sort of compromised on this, what I described as yesterday as a pointless one, which I still stand by. I have to say, though, I have rather more sympathy for France's position. In fact, you know, if I sort of I agreed with France's position in actual fact, I have to say. An even longer one, you could argue, is more useful, but is it actually useful? And I totally think that President Macron's concerns about potential interference from the UK when it's already decided to leave, but still interferes in the next, EU Parliament are totally valid. The thing is that the agreement itself is supposed to place certain constraints on the UK to carry out that interference. And a lot of people thinking, well, that's okay because this agreement ties the UK's hands on this. But it doesn't. It's a gentleman's agreement. I mean, Theresa May, I'm quite sure, will agree to all this. In fact, it doesn't play well back home to be interfering in the EU decisions anyway. She could totally validly say, well, actually, yeah, I know we've got this power, but we won't use it. You guys decide because we're leaving anyway. That fits the narrative. But what if someone else comes in who wants to cause trouble? And the thing is, the agreement, you could say, well, it's binding on the UK, not just Theresa May, but it's not binding at all. That's the point. You cannot remove statutory rights with an agreement, and the UK retains the full benefits of membership. Even Donald Tusk said that yesterday. They can't legally remove those without us leaving the EU, and we have to decide to leave the EU. The only way the EU can sort of force us effectively to leave the EU is by not agreeing an extension, but it just has done. And as I say, there is that fear. There is the fear that the Tories effectively oust May as Prime Minister and install a lunatic who doesn't agree not to misbehave, which is why we're not going beyond October the 31st, because that's when the new Commission President and even EU Council President a month later has to be decided. And the I suppose what they're taking from it, where they're feeling a bit confident, is the fact that Theresa May cannot be forced out as leader of the Tory party before December. So they probably feel safe that she's not going to be replaced by a mad dog or a sociopath, as I described them. But And that is true. They can't force her to step down. And this is probably why you're reading in all the Tory newspapers now that Theresa May, well, there's a few others as well. Theresa May is saying that she's going to see this through. She's not stepping down anytime soon. But that doesn't mean to say that those in her party will not try and get rid of her. She's securing her position until December. There's all sorts of schemes being mentioned in ways in which the Conservatives could bypass that and get rid of her. For example, just because she's leader of the Conservative Party doesn't mean to say she has to be Prime Minister. It could well be that Conservative MPs decide to say, well, actually, she doesn't have the confidence of the House. We are going to get behind someone else. Now, that's not terribly realistic because, first of all, it would mean that they would have to vote against their own government in a vote of no confidence. Now, that runs the risk of triggering a general election. There's no other way of doing it. And what happens then is if they can't get behind someone else, and they can't get behind someone else, because the arch-Brexiteers will want an arch-Brexiteer in charge, and the rest of the party will not countenance it. So within that 2 weeks period, no chance. So instead, what will happen is it will be a general election. And that's possible. That is realistic. In terms of, should the EU have just dictated terms? Should they have said, look, we'll give you this extension if you hold a referendum? They can't. They tried hinting at it in the strongest terms they can by saying to May that she needs a plan for an extension, for a decent length extension. She needs a plan. But their only option was to deny the extension and hope that Parliament would revoke Article 50, which they may have done. But obviously it was too big a gamble. They can't dictate a plan for the UK because not only does that break rules about interfering in the internal affairs of member states, but it would play into the Brexiteers' hands. They'd just point to the EU and say, look, they're pushing us around. We told you this is what they do. So they can't. No, the UK has to solve that problem. Now, EU elections are now certain, although Theresa May is still talking about, getting this done before them. No, that's not realistic at all. Nothing's happening. We also have local elections next month in the UK. So cross-party cooperation will be very much on hold while they decide to sling mud at each other for a few weeks, maybe even a few months. Hopefully Labour will at least champion the EU to get as many Europhile MEPs elected as possible, but I doubt it. It may well be that the pro-EU parties are the ones who benefit. Still, as long as we get out as many people as possible to vote in these elections, that may reduce the number of Europhobic MEPs that end up winning seats. And that will all to be the good. But what it does mean is that May has no chance of agreeing anything with Labour. I mean, it doesn't sound like she was trying terribly hard before, but we don't know what was actually discussed because there's lots of denials on both sides. But they have to become mortal enemies again to see through 2 further elections. So, it's completely on hold. Donald Tusk said that 6 months could be enough for a good solution if there's goodwill and a majority for such solutions in the House of Commons. Of course, he knows that there is neither goodwill nor a majority. So, he said that the EU is maybe not happy, but it is satisfied with the agreement. Again, those sort of tensions there. That was very evident from the hours it took to decide yesterday, which I don't blame them at all for. I understand everyone's position. It's not their fault and it's not their call to decide what eventually happens. It's ours. He also said, our intention is to finalise this whole process in October. Our wish and our hope is that the UK will be ready with the final solution. That is an unfortunate choice of words for a poll, I have to say. But I noticed he said, finalise this whole process in October, not by October. Was it late and was he just saying what he was thinking? Or was he basically saying that we will certainly be here in October and maybe without any movement at all towards a solution? It was a strange choice of words. In October, not by October. I know English isn't his first language, but he speaks it well. But anyway, so on to the referendum issue. People keep pointing out, it's totally enough time. They did the AV referendum in like 11 weeks, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. I'm going to go over like 7 points, which basically explain how I do not believe it's realistic. There's no such thing as anything impossible when it comes to politics. But realistically, I cannot see it us having the people's vote in this time. 1, the original referendum, Brexit referendum, took 22 weeks. And that had a lot more cooperation in Parliament than this one will. The Brexiteers will slow down the process every step of the way. 2, MPs are going on their Easter break. Some have already gone. They can't be asked with parliamentary business today. Technically, they should be in Parliament today. They can't be bothered. They're off. Gone. So that's it. Parliament's in recess. 3, when they get back, it's full swing electioneering for local and EU elections taking place over the month of May. Cozying up between the parties is definitely off the menu. 4, after that, Parliament has a few weeks to go before the summer recess. It will also be another session of Parliament. That means Theresa May can bring her deal back for a vote without even having to change it. New session of Parliament. She can do it again. So she's going to keep trying to get that agreement voted through. 5, don't imagine the no-deal Brexiteers will stay quiet during this time. Like a pack of wolves, they have been snapping at May's heels. They're going to keep up that pressure until she's wounded badly enough to have to step down as leader. They may not be able to oust her as leader, but they can put enough pressure on her, hopefully, or that's her plan, to get her to step down. And I don't know that won't work. 6, when Parliament gets back from its summer reset, it's party conference time. This is when the leaderships of the different parties are firing up their supporters. No time for cross-party nicety here either. 7, after that, you're basically in October. Oh, what's happening in October? Oh yeah, the deadline again. You've got about a month left before the new deadline. Someone tell me how we can actually have the public vote when there's no majority for it in Parliament at the moment. They're all buggering off on breaks. They're all electioneering. That means attacking other parties. Someone tell me. Tell me how we do it. We don't. We can't. It's a mess. And all that, by the way, assumes that we don't have another general election in this time, which there could easily be if the ERG decide to trigger it, as they've threatened to do multiple times. Don't see it. Can't see it. Wish I was wrong. Hope I'm wrong. Cannot imagine any scenario that leads to it without unicorns dancing across my mind. And we all know that that's not happening. We don't chase unicorns. So anyway, that is my further reading of it a day later. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe for further content, click the bell notification as well. And until next time, I'll see you later.